There are also a collection of written manuscripts from the 13th century at the Library of Ancient Manuscripts belonging to Kilikia. Some examples are this picture from the Book of Sadness of Grigor Naregati, miniature painting of the Quran of the Bible, and the interesting work called Hoke Kalust. Many experts have studied the ancient manuscripts of the Mesrop Mashtos Library, specifically the 887 Lazarian Bible. Experts think it cannot be the first of its kind since the work is so perfect and complete, which suggests that it must have had a predecessor. And as for the picture at the end of the Ejmiadzin Bible called Adornation of Magi, it amazes the experts by its high quality, interesting development, harmony of the colors, and beauty. The Armenian miniature painting is very unique, partly because the artists have tried to create new figures and concepts to eliminate the pre-Christian influence. Another reason is that they have tried very hard to avoid the influence of the Byzantine art. The Armenian colors and old geometric shapes are the product of these factors. Despite the new designs and patterns used by the artists, they still remain faithful to the old Armenian traditional designs. For example, the grape bunches, the climbing leaves, the local acanthus, and the expressive or vibrant colors. Through time, the Armenian decorative designs were enriched and came to include many motifs, which resulted in beautiful works of art. The portraits started to increase in the miniature painting starting from the 11th century. Secular themes were widely used starting from the 15th century. A vibrant example of this time period is the Battle of Avarairi from the 1482 Book of Hymns. The Armenian miniature painting has developed in two directions, elaborate and simple. Some examples from the elaborate works are the illustrations of 981 Ejmiadzin Bible, the 11th century Molni Bible, 1232 Translators Bible, and others. Here, the decorative designs consist of animals, birds, and various designs. The colors are rich and gold is also used. There are detailed figures on intricate landscape background or architectural backgrounds. The skill of the artist, the abundance of colors and shapes, and the beauty of this work shown suggest that the artist was taught by the great masters of the art school of the Middle Ages monasteries. The commissioners of such works were the members of the religious and the secular communities, who paid for all the expenses of the artist. The second direction is simpler and more popular. The faces and the movements are very expressive. The picture is not crowded with figures, furniture, architecture, and decorative designs. The materials used were cheap and gold was often omitted. Despite the limited colors and decorative designs, these pictures are very beautiful by their content and very impressive. The artists of these works were the monks of the monasteries, where they used to live and work. An example of this type of work is the Van or Vaspurakan Bible of 1332. The artistic motifs employed were developed in the art studios found near the large and rich monasteries. The motifs developed were used in the whole province or the schools of the surrounding regions. The richest school of that time was the school of Vaspurakan, which was divided into few other schools like the school of Akhtama established in the 17th century. For a small country like Armenia, a large number of artistic motifs and styles developed during the Middle Ages. Most notable are the Marcos Avetaranic work of the Bible of 1066, which was illustrated in Sepastia, the Annunciation miniature painting from the 12th century Bible, as well as the Four Gospels miniature. The earliest samples of miniatures were done in the administrative and cultural center of Devin. In general, like other branches of art, miniature painting has developed and advanced during periods of political and economical stability. The city of Ani and the monasteries of Hachbat and Sanahin have been important cultural centers as well. These three centers have the distinctive style of Lori. An interesting example is the Bible of Morni. Other cultural centers were the monastery of Tatev in Sunik and Vaspurakan. The famous 989 Bible of Echmiadzin belongs to the Tatev Bank and Sunik school. Vaspurakan was rich with the popular miniatures. As a result of the ongoing wars and the change in the world ideologies, the themes of the miniatures also changed. They were more about the secular world and life in general. The illustrations of that time period are very interesting, especially the samples from Kilikia. In the latter, the artist has tried to capture the human psyche. The most productive artist of the time was Sarkis Pitak. Although he worked in Kilikia, he was famous all over Armenia. Some of his commissioners were King Levon IV, Queen Mariun, Catholicus Hakop, Takur Avak, and others. Some of his most interesting works are the self-portrait of Sarkis Pitak and the Catholicus Hakop from the Mateios Avetaranic. He has also portrayed healing and miracle scenes in the margins of Medicine Bible. There are many characteristics of Kilikia, small and Armenia major miniatures in the works of Pitak, as well as the influence of a great Armenian miniature painting artist, Toros Roslin. He used the colors red, blue, green, pink, silver, and different shades of purple. These colors, when used on gold or parchment background, produced the colors of the rainbow, which was considered the heavenly color. Starting from the 13th century, paper was used for illustrations. Paper was developed in such a way to look like a parchment. Then the paper was illustrated with miniatures and bound into a book. The inner side of the book cover was lined with old fabrics. In these books, many old and tasteful patterns have been discovered, which are considered priceless. To draw arches and straight lines, compass and ruler were used. Then the picture was developed by hand. The main parts of the pictures were painted using Armenian cochineal red, burgundy, and ochre colors. Glue-like material was applied to some parts of the picture, which were covered by high-quality gold layers. The rest of the picture was painted using watercolors. These methods were perfected by the artists of Kilikia. In the 14th century, the number of artists increased in Vaspurakan, and many school studios were established, like in Glazor, monastery of Vorotan, Tatev, and other places where many illustrated manuscripts were created. Vaspurakan miniature paintings were cleaned and purified from foreign elements, and the national ones were preserved. A student of the Glazor University, Toros Taronati, has left behind an ample collection of works. His work has characteristics of both old traditions of Armenian art and school of art of Kilikia. He has a very unique artistic style. His characters are very expressive with their almond-shaped eyes and arched eyebrows. The baptism is done with great mastery, as well as the miniature of the portrait of Mark and the first page unmanated of the Gospel of Mark. The latter is a very interesting piece of art where man, animal, and the decorative designs join together to form letters presenting a complete piece of literature and picture. The work called John the Evangelist Dictating to Procus is a very symbolic and daring piece of art. Another example of miniature from Kilikia is the birth. Toros Taronati was one of the Middle Ages artists who had a very professional approach to art. He had the courage to portray what was beautiful, using pre-Christian and post-Christian elements. One of the most talented representatives of Vaspurakan miniature painting artists is Tserun Tsarkots. He lived and worked in Vaspurakan at the end of the 14th and the beginning of the 15th centuries. He made simple, expressive, and symbolic pictures. He mostly illustrated Gospels and stories from the Old Testament. The birth is an example of such work. Entrance into Jerusalem is a religious work as well as the Coronation of the Virgin. Most impressive of similar line of work is the sacrifice of Abraham. He also has works depicting the miracles of Jesus Christ, like the miracle of Jesus in the sea. His works also include scenes from the healings, like the healing of the demonic. One of his interesting works is the painting of Grigor Narekatsi and the donor Simon, which is a very symbolic work. The portrait of Matthew is another example of Terun's simple yet complete style, as well as the Terun self-portrait, which has a very intimate expression. His characters are well proportioned, the lines are flexible, and the pictures communicate warmth. He used the colors red, blue, yellow, and green, which were very delicate and beautiful. Another interesting work of Terun is the Choran, where the tree of life and the soft colors impart a sense of reverence. Terun expressed an enormous artistic world through his few works. The greatest achievement of the Kilikia school of miniatures was the emphasis of individuality. In the works of the artists belonging to this school, one often encounters portraits which reflect the characters of the person and emotional state. This was a very unusual appearance for the Middle Ages. Toros Roslin was the proponent of this movement, to whom the first steps of Renaissance are attributed. In the 16th to 17th centuries, Armenia was caught between Persia and Turkey, and the culture of Armenia was at a standstill. The works of this time period are very monotonous. The miniatures are simple, where only few colors are used. In the 17th century, some economic and social progress was taking place. As a result, the Erzurum miniature painting school was established. One of the proponents of this school is Hacop Giurayetsi. His works include Annunciation, which is part of the illustrations of 1585 Bible, and The Holy Women at the Sepulchre, which is from the illustrations of Bible of 1610. He was very particular towards his work. He wrote in his memoirs that he considered them a rose orchard, which is strongly communicated in his work of First Page of the Bible of Matthew, found in the Bible of 1610. This form of art ceased to develop starting from the 18th century. The Kilikia miniature paintings occupy a special place in the Armenian miniatures in general. The illustrations of this school are clear with harmonized colors, artistically masterful, detailed with fine workmanship, and complete. Kilikia has also played a big role in the preservation of the works of miniatures. When Armenia was living under difficult political conditions, this art developed and prospered in Kilikia by preserving the old traditions of style and the content. The illustrations of the Armenian manuscripts are unique and perspicacious. The colors, designs of the miniatures are distinctive. These illustrated manuscripts represent the spiritual art, life, and the occupations of the people and their clothes.